Thank you very much. My guests, some of my guests are seated. Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr. is a regular panelist, always punctual, on time, before the show begins. He's here in the house. Good morning and welcome to the show, Abdul Malik.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you very much. Abdul Malik Kwekubaku Jr. is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Dr. Mawea Zakaria is an organizational and development analyst. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
In the course of the week, I was reading a very tall article that you wrote in defense of the, so to speak, sanitary pads.
That's right, yeah.
For the girls in, poor girls in secondary schools.
Yeah.
Nana Kumia is around. Felix Ofosu Kwachi will also join us and we'll look at all the matters that are coming up. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is your most authoritative news analysis show, Newsfile, and on Newsfile we put Ghana first. The rest of my guests are in. Nana Akomia, he is immediate past communications director of the New Patriotic Party, and he's still in red. For what? Felix. Felix Ofosu. Kwachi Ofosu. Felix Kwachi Ofosu is the Deputy Minister for Information and Media Relations, who has no substantive minister.
Even the name,
who is he deputizing?
Even the name is
good morning.
The name is confusing.
Kwachi Ofosu. It's not confusing. All right, welcome to you. Welcome all of you. Now, let's start by first of all looking at the list of items that government presented to the nation to inform everyone that there was no need to continue to be remain pessimistic, as the president said. You know, the president at the Thanksgiving service made this statement, and I refer to a part of what he had to say. Well, actually, he himself put this on his Facebook wall, and he said, "Here is a fragment from my speech at the National Prayer and Thanksgiving service. In the Bible, there are many instances in which nations have brought supplications to the Almighty God. In times of tribulation and crisis, there are many occasions during which we, as a nation, Ghana, have called on God in times of crisis, and He has listened to us. We have been through periods of economic challenges. We have been through periods of drought and hunger. And in all these periods, God has listened to us and has delivered us. Indeed, God has been good to us. We have natural resources, we have talented people, we have a beautiful environment, we have political stability, and above all, we have peace. What probably is lacking, and for which we pray that God grants us, is a singleness of purpose, a unity of mind, and a oneness of our hearts. It is only with singleness of purpose and oneness of heart and working together that we can progress as a nation. Let us eschew pessimism. We must count our blessings and our successes, and we must continuously ask God, why are we so blessed? It is only with such a positive frame of mind that we can overcome any challenges facing us. God has blessed us with peace, and we cannot take this for granted." And Felix, you led the nation to count our blessing. You are saying effectively that there is no need for Red Fridays or concerned Ghanaians or middle class demonstration, or like some people have put it, Dadabi demos to happen in this country. It probably is a result of lack or misinformation.
Well, thank you very much, Samson, and good morning to viewers as well as my colleague panelists. First of all, let me say that we have said no such thing. I'm sure you are putting across your viewpoint based on what happened, but we have not called on anybody to stop demonstrating, or we have not sought to curtail anybody's right to complain or express him or herself. It is part of a vibrant democracy. And so government is all for free expression on the part of citizens. As a government, we owe it to our people to account to them on a fairly regular basis exactly what we are doing with the mandates that they give to us, as well as the resources that they have entrusted into our hands. And these periodic updates serve the purpose of keeping the citizenry informed about how government is performing, so that ultimately they may know that they have not wasted their mandate or their resources are not being wasted, as some may seem to project out there. So it was not in response to any protest or agitation. Protests and agitations have been with us since time immemorial. I don't think that this is the first. Neither would it be the last that people are protesting. We have seen much bigger mobilization efforts throughout the decades. And therefore, nobody can say that this press conference was a response to anything. Having said that, as a government, we are very mindful of the difficulties that our people are going through. No doubt about it. Time without number, the president, the finance minister, leading government officials have clearly stated that we are in difficult times. We ran a budget deficit in 2012 and 2013. That definitely was going to result in a situation where things would become difficult for us. In spite of those difficulties, government is doing a lot to ensure that the well-being of the Ghanaian is enhanced. Also, if you want to assess or analyze how well the country is doing, there's a need for you to be broad in your scope. You look at various sectors of national life, do an aggregation of all that is happening, and then in the end, you determine whether or not we are making progress. The fact that there is difficulty in some aspects of our national life is no reason why we can say that this country is not making progress, or we are stagnating, or we are retrogressing, as some have sought to put across. So, as part of our effort to engage the citizens regularly, we put in place this measure to hold press briefings and apprise them of developments in several sectors of our national life that they may not readily be aware of. It is true that whilst these things are taking place, those in those areas who are benefiting from these measures would see and can testify to it. But it is not everybody who may be aware that a particular problem that he or she has is being addressed. For instance, if it is water and people complain that their taps are not flowing, you need to inform them about what you are doing to ensure that in the near future their taps flow. So that was the purpose of this particular press briefing. We indicated that because of time constraints, it was not possible to touch on every sector. I've heard people raise issue about why we didn't touch on one sector or the other, but it was not going to be possible within the time frame that we had, 1.5 hours, to speak about everything. So we touched on 6 sectors: supply of potable water, we touched on education, health, communications, energy, and roads. Now, these are very, very, very important things that people need in order to make life comfortable for them. Nobody can dispute the vital role that potable water plays in our everyday lives. Without water, there's no way that we can function properly as human beings. And that is why government is determined to ensure that we fix the water problem. So what is it that we said? We said that, yes, currently, about 36% of urban dwellers have no access to potable water. 37% of rural dwellers have no access to potable water. It is an unconscionable situation. There's no way that in the 21st century, large sections of our citizens should be subjected to that kind of hardship. And so, as a government, we have begun work to ensure that by the end of next year, we move these figures up considerably. 85% of urban dwellers and 76% of rural dwellers will have access to potable water. How are we doing this? We have invested money to ensure that at least around the country, about 30 projects are ongoing. That would ensure that by the time that we reach the target year, we are able to deliver potable water to our people. The ultimate objective is to ensure that by 2025, we have universal access to potable water in Ghana. We listed the specific interventions that are being put in place to address this problem. We indicated that if you come to the Greater Accra metropolitan area alone, that area alone takes about 60% of water supply in Ghana. Again, there's a shortfall of about 57 million gallons of water per day. The current demand stands at 150 million gallons per day, but we are only able to produce 93 million gallons per day from the treatment plants that we have, Pong and Wager. In order to bridge this gap, government has invested significant resources. There's a Pong intake rehabilitation project Accra Tema Metropolitan Area Supply Project. There is the Pong Water Supply Expansion Project, and then there's the Teshinungwa Desalination Project. These 4 projects, when completed, would ensure that we exceed demand to the greater Accra metropolitan area by some 8.3 million gallons of water per day. In other words, all the demand would be met, and even future demand could be met. We gave specific areas that will benefit from this.
That sounds to me like great summary.
Yeah.
If you can move on to education
good.
And health and do the same way you have summarized.
Good. Yeah. Again, education, perhaps the most important aspect of our life. And I'm not exaggerating. It accounts for 6% of our GDP as a nation. 30% of our annual budget goes into education. So nobody can dispute the important role that education plays in any country's development, especially a country like ours that is developing and requires adequate human resource to give a boost to our developmental efforts. Now, we have major challenges with education across all sectors. Samson, are you aware that until last year, if you went to any public school and you did an average, you are going to arrive at a situation where 3 pupils would share 1 textbook at a time when the universal standard is that every basic school pupil should have at least 3 core textbooks in maths, English, and science. Last year, the Ministry of Education introduced a measure to distribute 12.5 million textbooks, and that has reversed the trend from 1 textbook to 3 pupils to 4 textbooks to 1 pupil. And there's no way you can guarantee quality education and impact positively on the lives of those children if they don't have access to basic textbooks. Again, there's this free exercise book program that was launched a few years ago. From that time till now, 100 million of these exercise books have been distributed. Last year alone, 32 million of these were distributed. This year, we anticipate that we'll be able to distribute 10 million of them.
And you speak about 60,000 laptops.
Absolutely.
Also
there's a basic school computerization project.
Right.
Now, there are several interventions involving laptops. There are some that are being distributed by the Ministry of Environment. That is what we call the Science and Technology Education Program. Then there's the basic school computerization project, which is aimed at introducing ICT into the curriculum. Apart from that, 50,000 ICT inclined teachers were also trained to upgrade their skills. Now, we have a situation where in this country, there are many, many places where children have to sit under sheds and under trees to attend school. When I finished the press conference, someone sent to me a picture of a remote community in the northern region where the children were sitting under a madhouse. The teacher in that community takes 18 Ghana cedis a month. And that 18 Ghana cedis is paid from the contribution of the parents of the children. Each one of them contributes 50 pesos in order to make up for the 18 Ghana cedis to pay that teacher. So when we speak about replacing schools under trees and giving the children an opportunity to sit in comfortable classrooms so that they can focus on the tuition that is going on, people tend to mock this intervention. But it is a very, very important intervention because you cannot begin to speak about quality education if your children are sitting under trees and their timetable is regulated by the weather. Between 2009 and the end of last year, 2,064 6-unit classroom blocks had been awarded on contract. Half of them have been completed. We expect that in due course, the remaining will come on board. Again, at the senior high school level, 1,064 were awarded on contract. Another 181 2-story dormitory blocks were put under contract for people in senior high schools. A vast majority of them have been completed and handed over to the education authorities. Only last week, the World Bank loan of $156 million was passed. That is going to ensure that we construct...
Take a minute and take us through health.
In health, there are basically 2 issues. First of all, there is access, and then there is quality. When it comes to access, there are 2 things. First of all, you need to create a vehicle that allows your citizens to be able to afford the healthcare. And then you need to have the infrastructure that will be able to take on board the number of people who want to access healthcare, especially in the face of growing population figures. And then there is quality. That is, after you've accessed the healthcare, what kind of healthcare do you receive? Is it adequate to meet the needs of our people? Do people still have to go abroad to access some basic healthcare services? So government is tackling this on all fronts. Of course, there are challenges that we are not running away from.
Okay.
At least there are 7 major hospital projects that are at various phases. There's a 600-bed University of Ghana Teaching Hospital. There's a 420-bed Ridge Hospital Expansion Project. And when you go there now, you see that work is ongoing. There's a 500-bed military hospital project, which is expected to be completed in 42 months. Then there's the second phase of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. After the first one was completed, it's a 400-bed. There's a police hospital project. It started way back, but it stalled for about a decade. It is continuing. Then there's the Upper West Regional Hospital. And there's even talk of the Ashanti Regional Hospital project at Sewa. Apart from that, there's the National Hospital Equipment Replacement Program. Under that program, 40 district hospitals have been supplied with modern diagnostic and other health equipment. MRI equipment, CT scans, X-rays, oxygen plants, and what have you. Kolebu alone, last year, benefited from a $57 million hospital equipment replacement project, as well as the refurbishment of some theaters that had been closed. 12 pediatric surgery units had been closed down. The baby unit and the intensive care unit for babies was also there. As far as the NHIS is concerned, of course, we have had a difficulty with disbursement of funds from the NHIS for obvious reasons. Yes. Okay. I was going to touch on that.
You take a breather.
All right.
I'll return to you, and maybe you have the opportunity to tell us about electricity.
Yes.
At least that should be enough to, end the list of things to discuss on this particular platform, because we can use this platform to exhaust all of the things that you speak about. Nana, in the face of some of these things that have been brought to the fore that are real, tangible developments going on, why do you think, for example, this gentleman who joined the Red Friday, Ven Leo Donko Sr., he writes and suggests that he's an engineer, he's a transmission engineer, and he writes to say that times are very difficult for him. He says, times are hard. The price of the rice I buy has gone up. I have settled for a lower brand. Even my favorite adjune has gone up. The 500 is not enough. He used to keep 500 out of his salary, to take care of his expenses, and so he could save. And he says that 500 is no longer enough because my purchasing power has gone down. I have been forced to cut on dashing cash. To own anything an average guy like him can enjoy, I have to save for months simply because I can't touch my savings. I am forced to eat once a day sometimes, not because I can't afford it, but because I have to save. And he's not happy about that, and he says for this reason he joined the Occupy Ghana, Occupy Flagstaff House Red Friday. Does he have a cause in the midst of the tangibles that we are told?
Thank you, my brother. I'm sure if we give Felix, the Deputy Information Minister, the whole day, he will be able to recite all kinds of projects and activities that the government is engaged in to make lives better for Ghanaians. And I don't think Felix is lying. He has how many pages did you have here? 20 pages?
No. It was 15 pages, I believe.
15 pages.
That's only 6 sectors.
Yes. Yeah. And he only, so he can go on and on. And I'm sure he believes in the 12 pages of stuff that he's telling us. But you see, Felix, you just read to us what somebody is saying about his personal circumstances. Now, Felix said something which has a direct relationship with the sentiments that you just read. Felix said that, and I'm just going to paraphrase you, and you are here, that there seems to be some people bent on spreading doom, and that government was going to forge ahead with the Better Ghana agenda despite the efforts of people to force doom on the people of Ghana. And I'm sure the sentiment that you read will fall into the doomsayers that Felix was referring to in his presentation.
No.
Because people have genuine troubles in this country, and they must be addressed. People are not just saying something to force doom on the people of Ghana. And that's an unfortunate statement that should come from government. The grievances are real. The grievances that come into the public attention all the time are not from some small section of people, whether they are opposition parties or they are dadabis or whatever. The grievances are coming from a cross-section of the Ghanaian society, including members of the NDC. So it's not somebody just doing propaganda or somebody just trying to cause disaffection for government. Listen to Kwesi Botwe. He said, there's widespread disaffection in this country. There's a popular mood of frustration, rising cynicism about government, erosion of the country's credibility among the public and the international community. This is Kwesi Botwe. This is not some NPP activist or CPP activist. Yesterday, I heard two NDC people who edit some of these NDC newspapers on radio. And
I mean, newspapers that are seen to be sympathetic to the cause of the NDC.
Is it the Informer, one of them, and the Herald?
Right.
Listen to what they said on radio yesterday. Senior members of the party must call the president to order. The president must sit up. He needs advice on best practices to save the desperate situation of the economy. Then they went on radio. If the handlers keep telling the president that all is well, that is a big fat lie. They must tell him the truth. They said something about deputy ministers that I don't think will be necessary for now. But then they called on President Rollins to call President Mahama to order. And they called on the senior members of the NDC to question the competence of political leadership in the current economic crisis. And then they asked, what are we tightening our belts for? What are we swallowing the bitter pills for? Is it for a better Ghana? Now, these are people who edit papers sympathetic to the NDC. And these are the sentiments that they are expressing. Are they doomsayers? We've had chiefs in this country. Now, I'll read to you from the voter region because that's significant. Because presumably we must assume that chiefs in the voter region are likely to be sympathetic to the NDC. They are not Dadabi or red Occupy Flagstaff House people. Look at what they said just last month to the president. And I'm quoting, "We are getting tired. Anytime we meet and talk about the development of the region, the promises are repeated. Always promises and repetition of promises." These are the voter regional chiefs. Then they went on, just last month, June. They said, and before the president, when they all met at Ho, they said, "Our people are suffering. Our people are cursing the government and making negative statements. Some say they have regretted voting for the NDC." Then Osei Asare therefore warned, I think he was a spokesman, "We shouldn't be treated as second-rate citizens in this country." He therefore called on the government to fulfill its promises to them. And then they ended. So recently, the Umefia of Anglo, Togbesri III, was also reported to have complained about the lack of fulfillment of promises made by them.
And this is reported by the Daily Guide, on the 3rd of June.
3rd of June. So the grievances that are coming from a cross-section of society. Chiefs are complaining, professionals are complaining, foot soldiers are complaining. TUC, the Trades Union Congress, the mother union of labor unions in this country. Look at what they said last week. They said the economic situation is getting worse by the day. And there is a deep perception that nothing is working in Ghana. This is the TUC.
You've heard Felix speak about the water situation and use the words, "This is an unconscionable situation." What sort of admission do you require? Now, beyond that, he tells you concretely what is being done.
You see, the first thing that will come into your mind is that, so all of these things that Felix is talking about, why is the citizen not feeling what is being talked about?
You mean the complaining citizen?
Kweku Bakun has lived in Laboni since he was a child. Laboni people will complain to you. They haven't had water in Laboni. What's the name of this place near on the way to Dodua? The settlement on the way to Dodua, what's the name?
Which one is?
I forgot.
Afinia.
No, just before the turn to the Dodua Road, that settlement there. They've always complained about water for the last maybe 20 years. They still don't have water. When you go to the countryside of this country, Galamsey has so devastated the countryside that peasant farmers, subsistence farmers, people without jobs are forced to buy sachet water because they don't even have boreholes. And I've been to the countryside, in Eastern region, in Western region, in Ashanti region. The countryside is devastated. Even the rivers that they just used to fetch, you can't. You have to buy sachet water. So when you read about Felix's presentation on water, I'm not saying what he's saying is not true, but there is a deficit between what the people perceive and what government says is doing. Look, recently, we've had Ghanaian students in Cuba. They haven't had transfers that are due them done in 9 months. They say that their colleagues from Burundi, Central African Republic, are having their transfers made to them. They, the Ghanaians, haven't had transfers in 9 months.
And they're having to
and so they're having to sell personal properties. As we speak, Polytechnic lecturers are on strike.
In respect of the Ghanaian students in Cuba, you've heard the finance minister say that as far as the disbursements are concerned from his outfit, the monies have been given away. Just that they need a few transfer matters to go through, and then they'll get the money.
You see, so like the Volta region chief said, anytime we complain, more promises are given. But the concrete reality of our people is that of extreme deprivation. The students in Cuba, if they've gotten their transfers, 9 months, if they've gotten their transfers, they would not be selling their personal effects. Pharmaceutical Council says they are going to get out of the NHIS because they're not getting payments. Polytechnic teachers are on strike. Get fund contractors are not being paid. School feeding is at a standstill. Caterers have not been paid since September 2013. Felix says they are expanding hospitals and doing all kinds of magical things. But as we speak, almost 200 hospitals have withdrawn from the NHIS, so they can't get health care to Ghanaians. Cement is great, it's a problem. The president said it's also a rumor, but we know that cement shortage is imminent and the price has gone through the roof. NDC, they were told us we're taking majority of the supporters will be NDC people. We hear that they are seeking asylum in Brazil. You see? So
we'll deal with that separately.
Yeah, but these are all part of the grievances, the widespread nature of dissatisfaction and deprivation that have attended upon Ghanaians today. And so Felix may be saying things that may be true, but at the end of the day, the sweetness of the pardon is in the eating. Okay. We don't see it.
Now, Kweku, I don't know how you want to look at it. It seems like a dilemma that the government is saying these are the real tangibles that we are doing. And government continues to assure that we are not resting on our oars. We are making sure that what ought to be done is done. People ought to stop being pessimistic and preaching gloom and doom. And yet, we have people getting on the streets, we have workers having problems, and we have middle class, quote unquote, determining on a Red Friday, which began yesterday and is going to continue. Until when?
Well, until the impact, assuming without admitting that all the projects that have been loaded and put together and presented to the public are indeed ongoing or have been completed, until their impact is felt by the people relative to their standard of living, they would always have that situation. I think people should not be surprised. It's always difficult for those in government to communicate what they are doing and also to let people believe that this is what we are doing and that this is how far it would impact on your standard of living. It's always been a problem. But you see, development has never been in abeyance, right. Never ever. There's always something happening relative to the development of this country or any other society. Perhaps it is the quality of the development. Sometimes you can have growth minus development. So you can see projects going up there and all those things. If it's not impacting on the people, then that kind of growth lacks the developmental edge, so people don't feel it. You see, I've looked at the list of projects and things that my brother Felix put out there. They are subject to verification. I wouldn't sit here and say that they are all entirely not true. It would be dishonest. Clearly, we have to do some further double checking. Beyond that, even we need some value for money audit to find out if indeed the money is being put in there, the quotations being made are really being used for the purposes. But that aside, the environment within which these projects are taking place is critical. We tend to forget. You see, people, Akome made this point, this classic case of the National Health Insurance Scheme. With all the investments that have gone in there, and they make the point about how much was paid 2013 as compared to 2005 and 2009. Huge difference, no doubt about it. But when you hear many other agencies that connect it withdrawing,
particularly the Christian group.
Yeah, it's worrying.
The command I hear about almost 30% of the provision.
So that is the point. That is the dilemma, the challenge that the government is confronted with. The inability to fulfill the statutory obligations to almost all the statutory funds, almost at the same time. So if you come talking to the people that, look, I'm building these roads, I've extended electricity, you've extended electricity, and there's erratic power supply, okay? So both at home and at the workplace, the impact is either negligible or completely absent.
The question is, so what does the man who is complaining expect of government? The things you are asking to be done are the things that are being done anyway.
They want consistent delivery of goods and services. That's why they put you there. They voted you there. And indeed, you told them you were capable of delivering those goods and services in a very consistent manner. They didn't expect that one fine morning they will get up and revisit the 1970s and 80s of petrol shortages and queues. They didn't expect that. And you come and give reasons, a lot of reasons. The people didn't expect that. The people don't expect that with all the revenues you are collecting, okay? Suddenly, you cannot fulfill the statutory obligation of putting money in the NHIS. They don't expect that. They expect you to be consistent in delivering those goods and services. That is the point. So you are doing something. And as I said, there is no government that has not undertaken any project. Never. Not even the military ones. They did. Hitler even undertook projects. But it comes to the quality of development and then the human element. When you have extended electricity and yet you cannot deliver the service, look, you can talk to the people. They will listen, but they will hear you. So that is that is the challenge this system is facing.
So
and in attempt to cure.
Professor White was wrong when he sought to diagnose the problem that has led to the growing, pessimism and complaining. He tied it down to lack of information, that the communication wing of government is not telling the story.
Communication is very important, it's critical, but people don't eat communication, okay? They don't eat communication, but I'm not for a moment underestimating communication. It's critical. And in fact, it is even the quality of that communication, not just sound bites for people to hear that I'm doing this or that. No, but bottom line, they must feel it. And that's why I give you the classic example. You may have extended electricity, power all over the place. If consistently they are confronted with erratic power supply and consistent or constant load shedding, the people don't feel that extension, the expansion. They don't feel it. So no matter what you say, they are just, it's the dialogue of the deaf, if you like. That's what it is.
If I may ask you this personally, you refer to electricity. Have you seen any improvement in the Dumso situation?
Well, if you look back 6 months, yes, I have to admit, at least in the area I live, it's not as consistent as it used to be.
Right.
But who say we're paying for some inconsistent
supply?
So
the president says that we should also count our blessings. We should take note of the he calls it the modest progress that is being made, so that we all can be patient.
Put that within context. And I've been here, it is Asampa, your sister station. He plays that thing a lot. Aruna Drusu, my own brother, making the point about never again would there be Dumso. He took on the NPP administration for that, make the point that it will be irresponsible for even a future NDC government to allow that to happen. And right after him is played also the president's one that says Dumso will be a thing of the past. In which context were they making those statements? Because we have the capacity to ensure that that doesn't happen. If it's just once a while. But you see, we have a pattern. Now, businesses, and don't forget, this Dumso thing is not just those of us at home who want to consume power that are affected, even though that's so uncomfortable, it makes you so uncomfortable. But even businesses. So the businesses cannot grow. They cannot produce. And if businesses are not growing and not producing, doesn't it affect the rate of production nationwide? Doesn't it? So that we'll just be going in circles. I hope, sincerely, that we'll find a solution to our problems. Because if the economy is booming, I'll be a beneficiary. So I'm not looking at it in the sense of let them fail so that people can make political or electoral capital out of it. That's short-sightedness. It's not visionary politics as such. But the truth of the matter is that when you are undertaking the development projects and they are within an environment that is depressing, people will listen, but they will not hear what you are saying.
Interesting. Now, Dr. Maria Zakaria, following you and seeing you writing articles, loads in defense of some of the things that are, and giving information really about some of the things that are going on, my question to you is, we have heard from the concerned Ghanaians for responsible governance. Now we are aware that after yesterday's Red Day, Friday, is going to be a consistent thing, a regular feature, until such a time that the concerns that they have are seen to have been considerably addressed. Some are asking the question, this is a democracy. There are those who are saying, this is the beginning of a revolution. There are those who are asking, what sort of a revolution within a democracy?
Yeah, thank you so much, and good morning to listeners and viewers as well. You know, having listened to colleague panelists and following on the direction of the discussion, I draw some two clear directions. I noticed that one group is talking about deliverables of public goods. Another one is talking about individual impact, the feeling of an individual. Now, you'll notice that if you are looking at any policy, you look at it from the viewpoint of an impact on the community, and also you look at it from the viewpoint of an impact of an individual. Now, most of these projects that are being listed, you notice that they have a value that we term as an intergenerational equity value. You realize that these are investments that are going into projects that are tangibles that you can actually point at and say that a particular amount of money that was derived from a particular resource had been allocated to a particular project. Now, these same resources could be invested in consumption goods. In that case, it is very likely for you to get an immediate impact, immediate effect on an individual. It is not going to be possible for you to achieve these objectives simultaneously. In integrated development programs, you notice that public good projects, when they are delivered and delivered properly, time will take before the impact on the individual will be felt. So people have to understand that when projects are being delivered, you will not immediately or simultaneously feel the impact of such projects on an individual as a person. That is the basic principle that I would like to outline. And then secondly,
you find within what Kweku is saying and what Nana Kumia is saying is that it's good to talk about what is being done. But when that is happening side by side with headmasters complaining that they've not received their subsidies for the various terms and that they are indebted to people who supply them and they are likely to shut down or not to reopen school at a certain point, when you have individual citizens having to go to court to have the court compel the government to pay the percentage of revenue that ought by law to have gone to get fund, which has not gone, and it's also affecting other areas. How do you reconcile
that's
that?
why, that's why I try to lay down the principles for us to understand that expenditure will either go into investment or consumption. A number of these things that you talk about are consumption expenditure, and investment expenditure is also very, very important, and there must be a balance between these two expenditures if any government work is sought is going to be able to deliver. So in trying to ensure that you expend your resources judiciously, you must understand that the relevance of expenditure on investment as against expenditure on consumption is very, very critical. Again, if you want to understand this thing, if you look at,
but if you will benefit. So
if you look at some of these things and you look at it within the framework of an intergenerational equity principle, you are going to understand that if we do not sacrifice consumption for the benefit of investment, this particular cycle is going to continue. And if you trace history, go back here and would follow through, you realize that we have been in this situation, and all economists and all development analysts have, admitted that this situation that we found ourselves is almost about 30 years or more old. It's mainly due to some kind of decisions that we take as a country. So, for instance, at all times, our budget is run as deficit. You're looking at your income and you are looking at your expenditure. Now, you must ensure that there is a reasonable balance between your income and expenditure. When we discuss all the consumption needs of a state, and we discuss it within a framework of our income, to understand that when you have all these expenditures, they must be financed. And when they are being financed, you are just looking at the implications of financing options of all these expenditures. So you have a budget, and you have income, you have expenditure. You notice that your expenditure is far outweighs your income. And even as you progress, you notice that other issues arise which requires urgent attention. And you will have to take critical decisions at that point in time to be able to determine.
This young man, Leo Donko, whose situation we use I used as an example, represents others. And I believe that he may not be one of those people who puts up a message on social media and attracts loads of comments. But this particular comment, he's had in excess of about almost 600 seeking to associate with him. What people are talking about is how their incomes can no longer sustain them.
Yeah, like I said, is a legitimate concern. It's something that everybody will be concerned about. But I'm making a point for everybody to consider that when you are analyzing a situation, you have two lenses that you can look at it. You can look at it from the viewpoint of a nation, that is the nationalistic point of view. You can also look at it from the viewpoint of an individual, and we say it's an individualistic point of view. If you look at it from the viewpoint of an individual and you are just looking at your personal circumstance as a measure of a success or progress of a nation, you are likely to err, because in most cases, the national viewpoint is very, very important. And that is why I am really...
And that's why you talk about the need to sacrifice consumption
for investment.
For investment.
For investment.
But the man who is complaining is also scared, has a certain fear. There are some of them, if you listen to local radio, I mean, Chi broadcast, there are some of them who feel that we may be inching closer to the Zimbabwe that had a wetless currency, that you needed a bag load to buy a fowl.
No, because like I said, this particular situation is not today that we are facing this particular problem. We have been in this situation for a very long time. We failed as a nation to manage it properly because we've always tried to satisfy certain immediate needs at the expense of generational needs. And when you don't take those critical and very bitter decisions, the situation would persist. And the persistence of that situation is even much more dire than just bearing it for a period of time until things improve. And I'm coming. Can I just
motivate the people to a level of consciousness for them even to admit that, look here, let's do this sacrifice and let the investments in productive sectors grow before we consume. Is that not something missing in terms of...
Hold on. It's okay. Just hold on. You cannot at all times expect to exhaust everything that you have in your head. It's okay. Just hold it there. Yeah. Thank you very much. You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show. We are coming to you from the Joy News studios. This is your multi-TV studios. This is your Joy News channel. We are on Joy 99.7 FM. And Love 99.5 in Kumasi and over a dozen affiliate stations. I understand that maybe at a point in time during this particular broadcast, we may have to go to the International Press Center for a while for the Joy Beauty and Bridal Fair, which is going on. So you should also be heading that way and get everything bridal beauty for cheaps. It's going on there right now. Now, Felix, the question that some will be asking, and for example, I was last week, Saturday, Moses Asaga, the CEO of the NPA, National Petroleum Authority, was here. I asked him a direct question. Can he assure the country that we will not get to a point of fuel shortage any longer? His answer was in the affirmative. We only, up till Wednesday, Thursday, we began to hear that we are likely to run short of fuel again. We have had banks that have said that they are withdrawing their letters of credit. They are not willing to supply them. So people have legitimate concerns that it appears that it's a question of incompetence.
Well, there's no question of incompetence. Of course, one can understand if legitimate concerns, grievances, or even complaints are expressed about a particular situation in a particular point in time. Prices of goods and services are going up. There's no dispute about it. We've had the implementation for quite some time now of the automatic tariff adjustment formula, which means that as and when utility prices have to go up, they go up.
Well, very soon we are going to take away subsidies completely.
Fuel prices go up periodically. Now, there are those in our society who forcefully argue that that ought to be the situation if we are to get out of the problems that we are in now. They believe that it is because of these actions that we've taken over the years in a bid to satisfy immediate needs of our people that we are in this kind of problem. Because if you look at the budget deficit, what actually accounted for it, you'll find that the most predominant causative factor was the wage bill, an increase in wage bill of close to 2 billion Ghana cedis, above what was budgeted for. Added to that was some 600 million Ghana cedis or so of subsidies. And then there was some shortfall in donor funding and corporate taxes and other things that really affected government's ability to mobilize the needed revenue to invest either in consumption or investment. Now, having done this as a nation all this while, and having had a situation where cyclically we arrive at this point, is it not now time for us to engage in a discourse that allows for some space for the things that need to be done in order that we guarantee and safeguard our collective future as a people? Because, Samson, it is not the first time that this is happening. Even the depreciation in our currency. In 2008, the cedi lost 20% of its value. Since the beginning of this year, it has lost 27% of its value. You can speak about the extent of depreciation. But the principle remains the same, that at most every 4 to 5 years, we have this particular difficulty. What is it that accounts for it? Governments have been pressured into doing things that are not economically prudent. It may appear in the short term that it is benefiting people, because if you go to the shop and the price of one commodity or the other has to increase, but it hasn't increased, it will benefit you. If you go to the pump today and you are supposed to pay realistic prices for fuel products, but you are paying much lower than you should pay because it is being subsidized, it is okay, but it is taking a toll on government's finances, and the effects will be felt sometime along the line. Again, let me stress that all the things that I mentioned have a direct bearing on the lives of people. Let me give you an example. Part of the cost of the average Ghanaian is the cost of educating his child, even at the public basic school level. If you have to buy a school uniform, buy a school bag, pay some fees for your child, buy textbooks, buy exercise books, it is going to increase your cost. If government absorbs that cost, as I have demonstrated here, and when I read the statement out last Tuesday, it means that some relief is brought to you because you will not have to incur that additional cost. If you have to pay more to access health care in a private facility, and government is able to establish public health facilities and is able to procure the needed equipment at subsidized rates, at rates that are affordable, and you access it, it also cuts down your expenditure. If your water situation is fixed, indeed, if the complaint is that there is hardship because services like water and energy are not efficient, the only thing that can be done is to improve upon the efficiency of those services. And that is precisely what government is doing. If we invest money in a Pong expansion project, that makes sure that, first of all, we have adequate quantities of water. And then we invest in the distribution pipelines and the supply system. What it means is that people at places like East, West, and North Legon, Ashalibotri, Hachu, Madina, Adenta, and other places who have not had water for quite some time.
That is where
I'm sure you will be the first to admit.
Situation is
it's been there for decades.
The late president, Professor Mills, tried to have a direct,
Absolutely, but now with the Pong water expansion project, that problem would be addressed. And once it is addressed, it will cut down on the hardship that people are facing. If the problem was with energy, and we are having intermittent power outages because of regular generational shortfalls, and something is being done about it, it is one way to alleviate the plight of people. What is the problem? As a country, our demand is growing at a very rapid rate.
So how do you explain the undoubted, what you are talking about, the direct impact of these interventions?
Yeah.
How do you then explain the murmur, the complaint? How do you explain it?
First of all, it is not the first time in our history that there have been complaints. I have been part of several agitations against the Kufuor administration. These complaints came up. Perhaps one could argue that they didn't handle it well, especially the way that their officials talked back at those doing the complaints and all that. But these complaints have existed. Under the Rawlings regime, we had similar complaints. There were Yabre demonstrations. There were Kumi Prekum, CMA Prekum, and what have you. There were demonstrations like that when government decided to introduce tax measures that people felt was going to increase the cost of living. So these complaints are not new. I'm sure they will persist for a considerable length of time. And everywhere around the world, you find that there are people who complain this way. The most important thing, in my view, is the things that are being done to ensure that a minimum standard of living is guaranteed for our people. Beyond that, we can then begin to speak about the other things that can be done to cushion people in their everyday lives. Because if you have a country where education is inaccessible to large sections of your people, healthcare is inaccessible to large sections of your people, people don't have water, they don't have roads, they don't have electricity, communication is down, and all other sectors are suffering, you cannot begin to speak about cushioning the individual at the expense of the larger society. We are a country that is also in transition. We are a developing country. We have challenges that will take years to address. But the most important thing is that it is being done.
Right.
And the impact will be felt.
Can you just take a
very soon.
minute to summarize the interventions in respect of the electricity subsector?
For instance,
just briefly,
absolutely.
so that we move on.
The problem that arose had to do with the knockoff of about 3 different power plants. There was a 330 megawatts TAPCO plant at Abuaze. 110 out of 220 megawatts of power at Tico was also knocked out. And then the Bui Dam suffered some reduction in the water inflow because it had been overdrawn in order to meet some challenge that we had in the past. Now, the good news is that most of these plants are coming back on stream. The 110 Tico expansion, sorry, the 110 megawatt that was lost from the Tico plant is back. Part of the TAPCO plant is expected to be back by the end of July. And then we expect in the next few weeks, all of it will be up, back. The Bui Dam, they expect that with an improvement in the water levels, all 3 turbines are going to work. And that is what has resulted in the improvement that Kweku alluded to. Now, once you fix that problem, the difficulties that people face with regards to energy supply is addressed. Beyond these are other projects that are being done to ensure that we don't go back to the shortfalls that give rise to the power outages. So what is being done? There's a T2 power project. It's a 110 megawatts power project that is currently ongoing. The engineers expect to complete it by the end of next year. There's a thermal power plant project that is 220 megawatts. We started a while back, even before this government came, but it stalled due to some difficulties.
You delayed.
Well, it will not be the first time that it has
making
been
complaints
in
of corruption,
in the project that the government
mismanagement.
started. There are projects that were actually abandoned. And the same arguments of corruption were made. A typical example is the question in They claim that we took 25 million.
What is this
No.
So let me hear Kweku briefly.
So let me finish my point.
Hold on, let me hear Kweku briefly.
Let me give you 2 classic examples where you can then blame leadership. This point he's talking about, they delayed it on basis of perceived corruption and lack of money. That's what they said. Eventually, they've gone back to restore. Some 2 years was missing. The gas project, if they had followed the original plan, we would not be flaring gas today, and we would have finished the gas project by now. Because they went looking for Chinese loan. They forgot the original plan, which the then Minister of Energy had admitted that had been put on a fast-track basis, and that they were going to make sure that it came. And you know, first gas was to come out when first oil came.
Right.
That was the original format. We've delayed that, so that is to blame leadership.
Two responses. First of all, the thermal power plants. If government has cause to believe that something untoward happened, there was a need to look into it. There's nothing wrong with it in terms of governance. Second point, if there were issues with raising funding and government finds the money to do it now, as absolutely nothing wrong has occurred.
Okay.
I gave you the example of the Tetequashi. I gave you the example of the Tetequashi. It was $25 million, I believe, at the time. The MPP came in and said that we had inflated it by some 11 million or so. And that is actually why they downscaled. They downgraded the original plan of that interchange, and it created traffic for us. Again, the gas project, they keep on saying that there was some plans that we inherited. If you sign an MOU with a company in Trinidad and Tobago to build a gas plant, that is a far cry from raising financing.
The Minister of Energy.
No. Again, it is completely erroneous to say that you expected first gas upon
the
first
Minister
oil.
of Energy.
It is.
Otinaje.
Listen, I cannot recall any situation in this world where first gas comes out at the same time as first oil, unless you follow the exact plan.
But that was the plan.
No, but the point is that they fast-tracked oil because we were in a hurry to get oil out of the ground to sell.
Right. So the minister didn't know what he was talking about.
But the point is that now the plant is almost complete. So the point is really moot.
Right.
Government has done nothing wrong by taking time.
It is not
Thank
good.
you, Felix.
Of the delay. And the delay has had.
It was not as though when we came, we were building a plant and we said don't build it.
There
was nothing on the ground.
Was there. The minister publicly acknowledged
but you said that
if the plan was followed.
Gentlemen, hold on. I'll come
There was
to
a
you.
delay in the plan.
Yes.
For all sorts of reasons.
Gentlemen, we need to make progress
There are any number of
and
plans
finish
lying
this part of the discussion and move on. Thank you very much, Kweku. Now, Kweku refers to some aspects of delay, this political game, which is his suspicion that led to delays, which led to why we didn't have Pong coming on as early as when it should have come. I've heard the opposition, the NPP, many times just heap blame on the president and say he's incompetent in managing the
I'm
economy.
not even too sure about that.
People ask the question that no president is happy to see that his people are not getting what they desire. Is that really what the problem is? Change the president or what?
Samson, the buck stops with the president, not Felix Kwachi Ofosu. I hope I got it correct.
Yes, and you're thinking he's sleeping, he's not working?
The buck stops with him. Whether he's sleeping, he's walking, he's dancing, he's talking, the buck stops with him. He has the mandate. He said to Ghanaians that I have these are the problems. I have the solutions. Give me the mandate. You have the mandate. Nobody is disturbing your mandate. I mean, a direct response to what you're asking. The president himself, on 2 occasions, national occasions, assured this country that Doomsaw will be over. And he gave times. Doomsaw is not over.
No, you have to put it in proper context.
Please, I'm saying that...
There's a temporary difficulty, 2012, and he says that by April of the next year, it will be over. It doesn't mean that if it recurs, then the president has told the falsehood.
You are heckling me.
Thank you.
You are heckling me. You are not listening to me. That's the problem.
I'm only correcting the misimpression.
Because you don't even understand what I'm saying. How can you correct it?
I understand it fully well. You are
please,
simply saying that the
please hold on.
Can you listen again?
I'm listening.
I'm saying to you very simply, very clearly, that the president of the country, on 2 national occasions, assured the nation that the problem was going to end. This is an assurance from the president. It did not end. If you like, I'll read you the quotation just now. It's here. at the national Thanksgiving, and I can give it to you.
The president continues to assure that he is at work, making sure, having sleepless nights, to make sure that everything is in good order. We should celebrate our modest successes and be oneness, have a singleness of mind and at heart, that we can progress.
You and I don't
what else do you expect from him?
You and I don't have any doubts that the president is working. That is not the issue.
Yeah, so what do we expect?
The issue is that the deliverables, I've given you the direct instance of the Doomsaw. At one point, he told us that now we should say Mimamukania or Yamahama, isn't it? You know, to tell us that the thing was over, and it wasn't over. But the buck stops with the president. So if people want to lay the blame at his doorstep, it's in order, because the buck stops with him. Now, this business of the government people not communicating the good things, I mean, really, Samson, if what you are doing has so much impact, you don't even need to shout yourself hoarse about it. If what you're doing is a credible, concrete reality, it will be felt by the people. That you don't need to shout too much about it. And the kind of, let me not say propaganda, but the kind of work that Felix and his contemporaries are doing, how can anybody sit back and say that they are not communicating? The thing is that it's a bad situation. And no matter how you communicate, if it's a bad situation, there's no communication that you can do that will correct
what I'm asking is, the president says that he admits the difficulties and says that let us work together. But patiently, we will get there.
Who is not working together? Samson, because you don't have a lot of time. But otherwise, what I have in my hand here is the statement given by the president September 2012 about the critical policy actions of the John Mahama administration.
Where he ordered, he directed.
And all of them. These were going to last from September to December. The critical policy action that were going to be taken by the president and his government. He talked about macro stability. He talked about the deficits. He talked about the cedi and how it is going to be arrested. The Bank of Ghana measures, instructions he had given.
Looks like all of those you have mentioned, he got it wrong.
So, you see, I don't want to go into those things. But,
yes, but now he's admitting the difficulty and saying that let us work with oneness of mind and heart to resolve the problems.
But our problem in this country is not because we are not working with one heart and one mind. The problem is that those in charge are sleeping. There's too many slippages in government. Look, I have in my hand here something that will first. Truck drivers chase out AMA at Odoko terminal. These are drivers who are paying toll. Every day they pay toll. They say they pay anything between 1,500.
And which paper is reporting this?
This is Herald. They say they pay every day between 1,500 and 2,000 cedis. The Odoko terminal is not tarred. When it rains, it's an eyesore. And no drainage, no toilets, nothing. They pay tolls. They've written petition upon petition to the AMA and the other authorities. Nothing is done. This is one small terminal at Odoko, and it cuts across the country. People pay tolls. The basic deliverables that have to be done for them are not done. So when people are complaining, now we say that my brother here, Dr. Zakaria, that there is some gap between the impact on community and impact on individuals. I don't understand that kind of theory.
He speaks the NGO language. You don't
what
really
kind
understand.
of NGO language is
So
that?
the point I was trying to make.
Can I go on? Yeah, I heard you clearly. You said there's in between impact on community and impact on individuals and investment and consumption. What is that?
No, basically, I think that what I was trying to say is that when you invest in public goods, when you invest in projects that are tangible, that are for community development, its impact on an individual has a time period. You cannot just build a water project today or build a hospital today and then tomorrow, or at the same time, you expect the health outcomes of the people within that catchment area of that property.
Well, so obviously, those people who are complaining do not know of this business on investment and impact on individuals and time period. Obviously, they don't know. The people who are complaining are not individuals. You have nurses across the country. You have labor unions across the country. You have hospitals across the country. You have industry across the country. You have teachers. You have lecturers. These are not individuals. These are core sections of the society. And they are just the tip of the iceberg, like the sentiment that you read. And what are people complaining about? People are complaining about electricity. People are complaining about water.
Electricity, which is improving, isn't it?
That's the argument that you are rebutting.
Please.
The things you are complaining about have been addressed. It will take time for the effects to be felt.
Felix, allow him.
I don't think
You've made that point. Please allow him. Yep.
Everything will improve.
I'm saying to you that the president gave us a direct assurance that it will end by a certain date.
It doesn't mean that subsequently
Can I
it will not
finish?
end.
He didn't even give himself a title, a greeting, that now you should say Yamamukania or Yamahama. It hasn't happened. People are complaining. It's a genuine complaint. People are complaining about water. People are complaining about the cost of living. The cost of living. Sachet water has one of the most basic of welfare issues. Sachet water has increased from 3 pesos to 20 pesos in 6 years. That's an increase of nearly 700%. Sachet water, I'm not talking about some luxury items. Sachet water, which because of galamsey, every Ghanaian has to use. So people are complaining.
Right.
They're complaining about the cedi, which was the 3rd worst performing currency in the whole world in 2013. And this year is the 2nd worst performing currency in the whole world in 2014.
Right.
And the impact it has. People are complaining about sanitation.
People are even asking for the governor of the Bank of Ghana to resign because he hasn't got, the handle over the city.
But the key point in all of this.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
In value of that is why we also be analyzing.
Can I finish? Whatever is causing it, you have the mandate to deal with it. You have the second power.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me share with you some of the messages. Let me share with you some of the messages that have come in. Emmanuel in Kumasi says, if I am putting up a house for my family, does it mean I shouldn't feed my family, pay school fees, hospital bills, etc.? You don't identify yourself. You say investment, savings, plus interests. Look at the savings level of the country. How can those who fuel underdevelopment, that's Western nations, help us develop? Wake up, Ghana. You two don't identify yourself. You say, Samson, I dare Felix Kwachio Fosu to come out with the names of the districts and areas that are built. They are building the so-called 6-unit classrooms. Please look for the statement that was issued. You'll find some of them there. Okay.
This list has been published.
Right.
On many occasions.
I'm saying
no
he should go look for it. He might find it. But listen to Godzo David. He says, Samson, William Arthur Ward once said, quote, "The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The realist adjusts the sails. Our president should also therefore stop being optimistic and be a realist, adjust his style of leadership so that we can also stop being the pessimist he keeps reminding us of." Again, very interestingly, Nana, you have been relying on the comments by the Herald and I think the other paper associated with the NDC, and you have also just relied on one of their publications to make a point, and the editor is amazed that it's amazing how the Herald and what Larry Dogbe says has become a gospel for Nana Akomia and his people. Hope he would not call us names when we write or say something about the NPP too. Okay.
Politics is a game of convenience.
Right.
About specific analysis of specific issues.
Right.
That's where that.
When we specifically analyze specific issues regarding the NPP,
and it's not just the editor.
Kofi Asamoah in Techiman says the NDC has reached perfection in winning elections, but they don't have an iota of idea about how to rule. Bonti Benjamin from Achime Buakwa says, Samson, we don't need to be giving a tall list of items before we realize the government is performing or underperforming. We feel the high cost of living, no light, no water, no cement, no hope daily. It's sad that every school, every sector of the economy has a problem. Ibrahim Kopa in Tamale says the words used by Felix to address the concerns of the occupants of the occupied Flagstaff House was most unfortunate and betrayed the same arrogance from the quarters of government, which was one of the many concerns. Malik Bediako in Cape Coast says that, hi Samson, let Mr. Kwachio Fosu understand that the mere admission by the president of the difficult situation we find ourselves in does not mean we are okay. Admittedly, they are leading us, but it's also true that the very issues we complain about, they don't feel it. I dare say that in this country, we have made the ability to talk the required skill to become a leader. I wonder. Ajukudiok from Sandema, I hope I didn't murder your name, says, Samson, please ask the minister if he's saying that Ghanaians can't see and that it's only them who can see. We are waiting for them in 2016. Okay, for those of you who like to threaten so much with 2016, let me just take Maria Zakaria, Dr. Maria Zakaria, briefly on this issue, and then we can move on and go on to look at the other matters. Yeah. Yes. So in the end, like I have asked before, the group that says they will wear red every Friday are going to continue that. When do you expect that they will stop?
Yeah, definitely. Like you rightly said, you can understand the nature of the group. I have looked at their identity. I realize that there is a real, question of identity of the group. They've had times to change the identity from middle class to critical mass to a number of adjectives that have been used to describe themselves.
Is that really important?
Yeah, no. So I'm just building the case. Secondly, again, the petition that has been submitted, I have looked at it as well, and I noticed that it's quite nebulous in the sense that it's not defined properly for anybody to be able to respond to it in the manner that they require. So, for instance, you notice that when Felix and his group tried to respond by enumerating certain projects, they came out again and they said they needed definite time.
May I remind you that Felix says that the statement was not in response or reaction to the concerned Ghanaians for responsible government.
Very much so. Can I just finish?
Somebody who works at the vice president's office had apparently posted.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
James he had posted earlier to say that there was a press conference that was coming on Monday to address the issues. Let him finish his time.
The point I was trying to make is that they responded to that statement, whether it was addressing them or not. They did respond, and they said that they didn't just want to hear, a list of items. They wanted specific timelines to the petition that they had submitted. And I'm saying that the petition that was submitted was in such a manner that you cannot really come out with definite timelines. For you to demand timelines for a petition, you would have to define clearly the expectations of government. For instance, when you come to healthcare, what are the measurable outcomes you are looking out for? Are you looking at an improvement in in the health outcomes of people? Are you looking at adding a particular kilometers of road to our road network? What exactly are you looking for? And then you can now say that within this period of time, we expect that this volume or this kilometers of road should be added to our road network. But if you present a petition that falls short of coming out clearly with deliverables, clear, smart objectives.
They are not clear when they say that we want to see erratic supply of electricity, resolved.
When you say you want to see erratic supply of electricity,
they are not clear when they say the CD is falling very fast. No, we want it arrested.
How do you say when you say arresting the fall of a CD? So you want it to be stabilized, you want it to be at zero, or you want it to appreciate?
And that's the business government says it has committed itself to.
So when you look at these requests, when they present them, you would notice that it's quite difficult to give them unless you are looking at the mandate of government,
all right,
which is a 4-year mandate.
Thank you.
That mandate, if you are able to deliver, then you can say that.
Thank you. Nana keeps complaining about me cutting him at a point which was just unfair. Yeah. Let me give you 2 minutes.
Thank you.
That should be sufficient for you. Yes.
Are we talking about the Occupy? Or we are here to move to that.
We are asked to speak. Still,
I just want to be clear.
You won't even let me start.
What we did was incorporate that into the initial discussion.
So I myself didn't get that impression.
You didn't get that impression? The Red Friday.
We thought that we were talking about
I didn't.
To be honest,
so
let's
I see.
It's 5 minutes. I think it's
5 minutes. That will be too much.
Well,
okay, you finish 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and then Kuku
talked about the people who are complaining, not complaining in a manner that can be addressed within timelines. The people talked about the city. They talked about treasury bill, for example, being about 23%, which is not making the environment good for investment. They are having to lay off workers because the macro situation is extremely bad. They talked about it. You can't address it. You can't give timelines. Felix talked about wage bill being the major cause of the problem. What wage bill? What is the situation regarding the revenue? What is the level of revenue increase as against the wage bill? You will find out that the revenue is increasing faster than wage bill. Last year, our interest payments, and mind you, this government is the government that has borrowed more than any other government in this country. Our interest payments alone in the last 6 months of last year rose by 117%. Wage bill rose by only 17%. So it is not wage bill. Don't come and tell us that. It says subsidies. You've increased electricity alone by 80% in the last 6 months. And you're still talking of subsidies? You've increased water by 60%. And you're still telling us you are subsidizing and that's the cause of the problem? So it's we Ghanaians. Is we Ghanaians fuel? What subsidy do they have? The subsidy that you have is caused by the government because of the cedi. Because of the fall in the cedi, when you increase the price, the value, you need more cedis because you can manage the cedi. It's not subsidy. It's your mismanagement of the macro. The cedi that is falling, so you need more cedis. Okay. So you're asking Ghanaians to pay more. And the donors are not giving you the money because they're not happy with the way you are spending your own money.
Go 2 minutes.